Hi guys, and welcome back to World of Tanks. And well, yep, today I'm finally going to be looking at the Höllenhund Bulldog, I suppose, yeah, which is basically a German Bulldog at tier 8 with a 90mm gun, but not like the Brazilian Bulldog. This one is a proper tank gun. Basically, it doesn't fire a form of HE for its primary ammunition. It's standard armor piercing. But it does share, well, it does share a lot in common with the Bulldog, the Brazilian Bulldog, should I say? Sorry. And I'd say more in common with that than the regular Bulldog. And I don't know. I just find myself, I have to say it, I find that I'm ever so slightly disappointed, and I don't know, just a little bit confused as to why they've done some of the things they have with this. And personally, and this is my personal opinion, I don't think I'm that keen on this tank. I don't know. At the moment, I don't think I'm keen on it. But I'm going to try not to let that sort of, cloud my vision with the review. I'm just going to try and give you the facts and some of the things that I think are wrong with this, possibly. But, we'll sort of get back to that. But anyway, I've basically, I like the look of it, apart from that stuff on the turret. That just... Look, to me, that just looks stupid. At first I thought it was ears, but no, it's obviously some sort of claws or some sort of frill or mantle or something that's supposed to be on the Hellhound. But I really do think that on top of the turret looks just stupid. And I've actually just taken to calling this slick, because it just looks like it's got some... Yep, when I can talk. It just looks like it's got its hair slicked back on top of its head. So yeah, I have nicknamed this Slick. But yeah, like I say, a few things are slightly confusing as to why they've done this sort of stuff. So the Brazilian Bulldog fires, like I say, a form of HE for its primary ammunition, primary ammunition, which has got some like 102 pen and like 330 damage or something daft like that for a 90mm. This has a proper 90mm gun. So you get 9.09 rounds a minute, 182 pen with your armor piercing, 240 damage, standard 90mm damage. Still 250 and 240 for your heat, which is the same as you get on the Brazilian Bulldog, and then 102, 320 for your HE. Now, in fact, is that the same as the Brazilian Bulldog, or have I got my... Oh no, 102, sorry, and then 45. So it looks like the HE that it uses is basically the same as the primary ammunition off the Brazilian Bulldog. If I look in, yeah, HEP. That's what the Brazilian Bulldog uses. Standard ammo is HEP. So the heat on this, not the heat, the HE on this is actually pretty nice. But like I say, I do think that on top of the turret it could have just done without. But a couple of things that have sort of confused me about this. Obviously it's tier higher than the regular Bulldog. It's not as fast as a normal Bulldog. It's not even as quick as the Brazilian Bulldog, quite, which is again a bit weird. It's got a slightly smaller engine than the Brazilian, 500 instead of 510, and the normal Bulldogs, 550 I think it is. And that is a lighter tank than both of these as well. But you do get a decent aiming time with the gun, and the accuracy is not too bad at 0.38, kind of average, but the aiming time is pretty nice at 1.8 seconds. So the gun is quite a nice gun on this, on the light tank. However, they've taken 2 degrees away from its hull traverse and made it 54. The Bulldog and the Brazilian both have 56. The view range and turret traverse are both the same, though, at 50 degrees for the traverse and 400 meters for the view range. And this has the turret armor of the regular Bulldog, which is 25mm all round, which again is something I'm going to sort of mention in a second as to why I'm a little bit confused, because this, whereas the Bulldog has reinforced, the Brazilian Bulldog, sorry, there's so many of them, has reinforced armor on the front. As you can see there, it is thicker armor, 31 to 50. Upper glacis, quite a considerable chunk at the front of the turret, and obviously lower glacis and part of the whole floor. Now if we look at the at Slick, then we'll see that it hasn't got that. It's got the same sort of armor makeup as a regular Bulldog, which is the gun mantle, which is the thicker part, the lower glacis and part of the whole floor. So it has less armor on it, less physical thickness, but it's a heavier tank. If you check the Tankopedia, it is heavier. So it means it is, like I say, the Brazilian Bulldog is slower than a regular Bulldog, this is slower than a Brazilian Bulldog, and it has slightly worse terrain resistances on top of that as well, which is, again, slightly odd, and I just find it slightly bewildering. that you've taken basically the Bulldog, put it a tier higher, made it slightly worse and get the Brazilian Bulldog, and then make that slightly worse with some of the sort of stats, and you've got this now, which is again just odd. And I did think initially that the extra weight would have come from the gun. I'm just going to go into supplies while I'm on about this. Came from the gun, but it says that it was actually the 76mm that was reamed out, so it was bored out to be 90mm, so it wouldn't be a bigger, heavier gun. But I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to tell you the facts as I see them, and as I've been looking into it. You know, there might be something that I'm not aware of, you know, that somebody might be like, oh, well, actually, it's because of blah, 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 blah. So, you know, I'm just telling you the facts, and why I just find it a little bit odd that it's not quite as good as the Brazilian even. And that's, you know, I'm not about the gun's far better than the Brazilian, but I'm just on about why they had to make the other stats worse, because I felt the Brazilian was lacking anyway. I think if this had the same stats as the Brazilian, with power to weight ratio and engine and everything, then I don't think it'd be overpowered at all in the least. But anyway, 280 for your standard armor piercing, very cheap. 4,800 for your high explosive anti-tank, and then 450 for those really quite nice high explosive. And I might even put a couple of those on now. I've put a large first aid kit on mine simply because, well, you get your crew knocked out a lot in this. If you get hit, you generally lose a crew member, or I seem to anyway. Equipment, I've gone for a vertical stabilizer, vents, coated optics, and a gun rammer, which is sort of pretty standard for light tanks for myself. The crew, I've not really got a decent light tank crew for the Germans. I've got very good heavy tank crews. So I've just put this one in out of my Panther 2. But repairs, situational awareness, 6th sense, and camouflage are a good start. You also want smooth ride as well on this. And maybe even the snapshot with your turret rotation, obviously when you're circling stuff or moving quickly and turning turret. It'll help with your aim on that. But yeah, I'd say once you've got those on, probably get Brothers in Arms, Smooth Ride and Snapshot. Maybe even off-road driving, because the terrain resistances are slightly worse now. And again, like I say, just because I'm not keen on this, you know, I'm not trying to let that sort of influence my review of it. I just want to give you the facts about it and some of the reasons why I'm just a bit bemused by what they've done. They've also given it more hit points though than the Brazilian Bulldog, which may account for why they've made some of the stats slightly worse. This has 1100, I think that has 950. So, you know, it's got an extra 150 hit points. That could account for it, but then what they've also done is made the concealment on this worse at 0.25, whereas the Brazilian Bulldog gets 0.28. So again, it's just a bit, it just seems all a bit odd, to be honest. It's very, it doesn't seem like it would make much of a difference, but sometimes it can. You know, you'll get seen a bit quicker, you're not quite as quick to get out of the way, you're not quite as you're not going to turn quite as keenly, and not by much, but it, you know, it does all just have that subtle effect. It does, however, have very good bonuses, which I nearly forgot about telling you. It's got a 40% silver bonus, a 20% XP bonus, and a 50% crew XP bonus, according to Tankopedia. So I just hope that's not a misprint or an error, and that is actually the case, because if that is the case, you know, that's a pretty nice crew trainer there. But anyway, that engine translates to horsepower, power to weight ratio of 21.28, which is slightly worse than the Brazilian Bulldog. It is a fair bit worse than the standard Bulldog. I can't remember what that is off the top of my head. I think the Brazilian one is something like 21.32. So it is only slightly less, but again, it's just all, it just all sort of adds up. You know, that plus the minus, you know, the 2 degrees less on the whole traverse, and the ever so slightly worse terrain resistances. Like I say, if you're used to playing in the Brazilian or the standard Bulldog, this will take a little bit of adjustment, but not a lot of adjustment. You know, maybe just a tiny bit, because like I say, it just all adds to the overall sort of effect. But anyway, 72.4 kilometers an hour, which is the same as the others, 24 in reverse, and a 20% chance of fire. I don't know if you can see that. The Halloween garage does make it a bit difficult, and I don't know if it's just me, but does anybody else find the constant howling quite irritating? Because it never seems to shut up. Yeah, the other thing they've taken away, I don't know if I mentioned, is 2 degrees of gun depression as well. The Brazilian Bulldog has -10. The normal Bulldog has -10, I believe it is. This only has -8 for some reason. Again, it's supposed to be the 76mm, just bored out. And it's the same turret and everything, so why does it have 2 degrees less gun depression? again, just a bit confusing. The elevation is 17 degrees as well on top of that. Terrain resistance is 0.6, 0.7 and 1.2. The Brazilian Bulldog has 0.5, 0.6 and 1.1. So not much in it, but again, like I say, it just sort of all adds up. The overall sort of, the slightly less terrain resistance, the slightly less power to weight ratio, it just adds up to the overall effect. Now, we've gone through the turret. The radio, which I can barely see, is in the bustle on the back of the turret. The ammunition blocks, well, at the front of the tank and on the left hand side of the tank, I have had my ammo rack sort of hit a few times on this, so maybe wet ammo rack might be, is it wet ammo rack or safe stowage? Safe stowage, sorry, I think might be an idea for the skill as well. I did forget about that one. I did mean to write it down and to remember to mention it, but there you go. Crew members, you've got 3. You've got the driver down in the hull, and then the commander, and oh no, sorry, 4. Nearly missed one then. You've got the gunner, loader, and commander under his cupola. Now, armour-wise, a bit odd that some of the spikes and things on it seem to be classed as armour. So whether that's where some of the extra weight has come from, I don't know. I'd possibly prefer to not have them and have a bit have it a bit lighter. But anyway, like I mentioned before, 25mm all around the turret, and the hull is 25 front and sides, 10 on the rear. 19 on the rear. So once 20. Now this is where it gets a bit, like I say, a bit odd and a bit interesting. It seems that the spikes around the barrel fall under that category, as do the spikes on the front of the tank, and the sort of claws, talons, horns, whatever you want to call them, on that stuff on the turret seem to be falling into that category. Now, the front ones maybe would set HE off, before it hits your tank. Possibly, it will act as a bit of spaced armour, I suppose. And then this is where it gets a little bit odd as well. That stuff on top of the turret also counts as armour. That's in the 21 to 30mm bracket. And now this is what I can't quite ascertain, whether that is over the top of the turret or whether that is the top of the turret. And the difference being, obviously, if that is the top of the turret, it's just that armour. If it's over the top of the turret, it would class as spaced armour, but it looks like it is the top of the turret. But it is weird that that's classed as armour on this tank. And then 31 to 50 front of the turret, and the lower glacis, just like it is on a regular Bulldog. Right, but there you go. Yeah, the Höllenhund, or Slick as I like to call it. Like I say, I mean, I suck in this tank. The replays I've got for you, they're not brilliant. This is why it's going up today, because I just couldn't get the footage in it, because I just seem to suck in this tank. But then again, I'm not overly keen on the Brazilian Bulldog itself. I'm hoping I'm going to enjoy the regular Bulldog when I get to it, because it is a bit faster and what have you. But yeah, I do pretty much suck in this tank. But yeah, that's my sort of opinions on it anyway. And well, like I said, hopefully it didn't sort of influence it too much. But I don't know, I just find myself a little bit confused by some of the things that they've done with this. Like I say, why they've taken more away from it. I suppose, in retrospect, with it having the HEP and with it having that good aim time, you could argue that it's for balancing purposes. But then again, it's initially a tier 7 light tank, now at tier 8, just with a slightly better gun. So you could always say, it is kind of balanced anyway. But I don't know, I'll let you make up your own minds on that. I'm just trying to give you sort of the facts as they are. But let's get into replays and see how it, how it actually handles. Right, so here we are for the first of the replays. It's a tier 9 match. I've not had many tier 9 matches in this. I've had, again, mostly tier 10. And just to sort of reiterate what's said in the garage for those that have skipped it. Personally, I don't think I'm overly keen on this tank at the minute. I do suck in it, but I don't think I'm overly keen on it at the moment. I may grow to like it, I really don't know. And I really don't understand why they needed to. I mean, I suppose you could claim it was for balance, but it's just bizarre how they've taken armour thickness away from what the Brazilian Bulldog has, yet made this heavier. The extra, the spikes and thing on top, even though they are armour for some reason, basically with all the weight that was taken away, I don't think would account for it. So I just don't get why, like I say, why they've taken 2 degrees of gun depression away, 2 degrees of traverse, made it heavier and given it a slightly smaller engine and therefore a little bit slower and worse ground resistance than the Brazilian Bulldog. I just don't see why they had to do that. But it does have great crew training potential. It is nice, you know, it is preferable to the Brazilian Bulldog for me because it is a proper tank gun. I just, like I say, just wish it had those extra 2 degrees of gun depression back more than anything. And yeah, like I say, I'm stuck in this tank, so don't expect anything spectacular for these 2 replays, but at least you should be able to get an idea of what it's like and what it can and can't do. But yeah, I just, like I say, I don't really like the stuff on the top of the turret. The rest of it, fine, you know, it looks fine and everything else. I just don't really care for that on the top of the turret, but there you go. Now, this is, I don't know if I mentioned in the garage, this is a German vehicle, so this is a German light tank, tier 8, obviously sees up to tier 10, and is not a dual crew trainer, I don't think. I did check, and I don't think I could put any American crews in, so no, I don't think it is a dual crew trainer, although my mind has gone completely blank now, but I would say no, it's not. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would imagine that there will be a standard version of this at some point. There usually is. Obviously, I mean, not necessarily there was no standard version of the Crafts. There was just the Revenant Crafts Panther. Obviously, the normal version of the Lycan is a T71, and Kaiju is just a normal OI. Gorinich, we did get a regular KV5. So with this and with the Dragon Type 62, there's a chance we could see regular versions of them at some point in the future, like we did with the Gorinich and KV5. There's a chance that we may not see, you know, a regular version of this, as with the Crafts Panther. We'll just have to wait and see. But I think, you know, I mean, I've seen people do quite well in these, and I think people will do quite well in these, people that are better in them than I am. And I don't know. I don't know if I've just got myself into a bit of a mindset with it, or what, but I've just, like I said, I've just not been having good games at all. But like I said in the garage, I'm going to try not to let that sort of, you know, not to let the fact that I'm not overly keen on this vehicle at the moment sort of tar my or sort of you know, murky up my review a little bit. You know, I'll try and keep it as objective as I can. But the gun, yeah, like I say, I mean, obviously I know I could compare this to the normal Bulldog, but you know, I think it's better compared to the Brazilian Bulldog because that's what it most closely resembles. And like I say, the gun is preferable to that. That does have the slightly thicker armour, but this is, yeah, the gun on this is pretty nice, especially with it having those HEP rounds as its HE with 102 pen. It just gives you that extra bit. I don't know, just that extra bit of oomph if you need it. And I think I might stick a few HE rounds on here. I'm not entirely sure. They're the sort of thing, I mean, that'd be the difference with, say, like, you know, your American tier 10 heavies. You could put one of those HEP rounds through the back of them quite nicely, or, you know, even through the side if you aim it. You know, don't hit the tracks, but try and aim for the side of the hull. It could possibly even pen that with 102 pen, so, you know, that does make a bit of a difference. But I don't know. I mean, like I say, this will feel different to a regular Bulldog because that is a bit quicker, and obviously, you know, that's tier 7. It does have a smaller gun, and it will feel ever so slightly different. And like I say, it's only going to be subtle. But anybody who's used to driving the Brazilian Bulldog, there may be the odd time where this will let you down slightly, whereas, you know, you might, you know, stuff that you just get away with in the Brazilian Bulldog, you might not just get away with it in this, because of, like I say, those slightly decreased stats. But, you know, it's still quick. My voice is gone. There we go, that's better. Yeah, it's still quick, still the 72 kilometers an hour. you know, it's still fast enough top speed wise. But that gun, I think it's the gun depression that's made the most difference to me when I've been playing this. Because places that are, you know, I've been before and used the gun depression in the Brazilian Bulldog, I've gone to them in this and I've not quite had enough gun depression, so I've had to go, you know, I've had to go over the ridge a little bit more, and it's not been as effective. And yeah, I've not done brilliantly in this round. I've been trying to sort of keep an eye on people, and at this point I decided to come back to try and deal with this IS-3, you know, circling, but I had a bit of a brain fart, couldn't quite think or figure out exactly where he was sitting, and got myself killed, unfortunately. So yeah, not a great round. About 3,000, well no, just under 3,000 combined damage. So yeah, nothing too special. It did put me in second place, which isn't too bad. But I've had better games in the Brazilian Bulldog. And again, you know, that's just me personally. I'm not saying that the Brazilian Bulldog's better than this, or it's a better tank to go for. I think this has definitely got the more capable and competitive gun to it, and with those bonuses as well, that if that is correct, and that's not just a, you know, an error on the Tankopedia, with that extra 50% crew XP bonus, the crew training potential on this is very, very good. And you know, there's going to be people that will want this because it's a German version of the Bulldog, and they can put the German crews in it, and it's a bit different that way. And I think this is the one that on the PC is basically just the Black Dog, they call it, or the Black Bulldog, or whatever, the Black Dog, and that's essentially this one, but this is just the Halloween variant of it. And I think when this, my voice was going again, I think when this goes into Awaken mode, from what I've seen, it has flames sort of coming out from under the hull, and it said something about, I'm not quite sure which stats it means, but it says the more damage it takes, the sort of stronger its attributes become. So whether those attributes will be sort of gun stats, or whether it'll be acceleration, or whether it'll be that the armour thickens, I really don't know. We'll have to wait and see for the Awaken mode. No, it's another tier 9 match. And I'm just sort of milling around in the middle. I was trying to go up for a bit of a spot over that ridge, but the medium tank had come the other way and proximity detected me. And the enemy team have pushed quite far down that western side. Not so much on the eastern side that's now behind me. But I do just feel a little bit trapped down here. Not too bad at the moment. But I've just got a feeling that if I, you know, I just felt that if I tried to get over that ridge behind me, that I would get shot from the tanks over on the other side of the map. So I'm just trying to figure out which is going to be the best way to try and get out of here without getting killed. Because I don't particularly want to be down here for too much longer. I'm not doing anything, you know, I'm not spotting, I'm not doing damage, so I just feel a bit useless down here at the moment. So trying to figure a way out, and because I just keep getting spotted there, I decide to go for it and hopefully just weave my way out. But unfortunately, take a hit to the back of the turret. I'm going to take another hit in a second, just as I disappear over there, which again is unfortunate. But at least now I've got out of that position, and I can possibly work my way around the eastern side of the island instead, because the west is pretty much owned by the enemy tanks at the moment. And yeah, that's the other thing with this as well, how it's, you know, it's got a perma camo. You cannot put camo on this, yet it's got less of a concealment rating than the Brazilian Bulldog, which also has a perma camo. Again, just slightly confusing, and you know, I don't quite get why they've done that. You know, I can see, to balance it out, maybe one or two of the reductions that they've done on it, but all of them, I don't know. Me personally, I think it's too much, it's overkill. Didn't quite manage to get the kill on the 131, but I did get down there to help out the Tiger. because that 131, the Tiger, well, Tiger P as well, doesn't have quite the rate of fire of a normal Tiger. In fact, it seems to be quite a bit less actually. And its traverses aren't as good because it's a very big, heavy, thick armoured tank. So that WZ-131 could have gone round circling him and ended up taking him out, so I thought I'd go and lend him a hand. And I mean, as you can see, it was quick enough to get down that island. You know, got down there very quickly. And now I'm going to creep up around into camp. We seem to have the upper hand on the enemy team now. But I'm just going to creep around and see if there's anything that's lone and damaged that I can go and have a go at. And I did see the RU-251, and I didn't want to have a go at him on my own because I'm on very low health. But then one of our light tanks, which I didn't notice before, you know, I've got to admit, he's gone up to have a go at him, so I think I'll go and lend him a hand as well. And there he is. Managed to get that one in on the move. Hopefully we can take him down before he kills that light tank, and I did manage to get the kill on that one. Not much assisted on this one again. Yeah, I've not, like I say, I mean, you know, I'm not making excuses. I suck in this tank. I freely admit that. But I've not had particularly good luck with matchmaking. I've had some pretty horrible levels for light tanks. And then on top of that, it being a tier 10 usually. So, Himmelsdorf, I'm just a bit lost on Himmelsdorf in a light tank. And, you know, tier 10 match as well. I just don't quite know where to go because you just get spotted. You know, everything's got probably about as good, if not better, view range than you do. And, yeah, stuff that up. Went to get around him, did not allow myself enough room. Hit those rocks because I wasn't paying attention, and the start took me down. Sparpanzer comes around, misses him, and I don't think he's got the auto loader, or if he did, he's not loaded. But then the IS, what was that? Was it an IS? Yeah, IS-3 came around and took him down for the win. But there you go, the Höllenhund, or like I say, slick, as I've come to call it, because it looks like it's got slick back hair on top of its turret. There you go. Well, I hope I've shown you, you know, given you an idea of what it can do, and you know, if any of you do pick it up, and I'm sure will probably be better than I am in it, please, you know, feel free to send me replays. The email addresses in the description of the videos, so I can have a look at it used properly until I get used to it a bit more, definitely. But yeah, I can see, you know, I've seen people do well in it, and I can see people doing well in it. But like I say, at the moment, I'm not keen on it, but that's just my personal opinion. But there you go. Anyway, I'll be back tomorrow with another video. So until then, take care out there, and I'll catch you next time. See you later.